Oh, hi, welcome. Thank you for joining me today for this short training video on how to take your team from being a drain on your business and reducing your cash flow to being an absolute high performing team that's a profit center for your business. Now, let's have a look at what that looks like first. What do we mean by a drain on cash flow or a low performing team, really? Which, if they are a drain on cash flow, that's what they are. I'm going to give you the two elements of a high performing team first. What that looks like is high output. Now, what we mean by output are the tangible measurements, the things that your team is measured on. So, for example, we work with sales teams, and in a sales team, the tangible outcome or the output is sales calls, is a full pipeline, is a number of sales made. They're very tangible outputs. Now, no matter what the team, whether it's your accounting team, whether it's your payroll team, whether it's your operations team, there's this other element of the team that's occurring at the same time, and that's called the relationships. Now, I've deliberately drawn a low line on that side of the team, that element of your team, because outputs is one thing, relationships is another. How your team interact with each other will determine how successful your team is. The relationships in your team will determine if high outputs are sustainable. You'll never sustain, in our experience, high output in your team if the relationships, or another word for relationships is engagement, if the engagement in your team is low. Now, we all know, and we've all read the Gallup surveys that have said, you know, there's only 15% of the employees in your business are actively engaged in the business. So we all know as leaders that engagement is something that we have to work on continually. Otherwise, you get the sort of relationships and the sort of behavior that we hear from leaders all the time. In this sort of a team, my team members don't communicate effectively. They don't work well with each other. They're the 3As. They're abusive, they're aggressive, or they're abrupt with each other, or even worse, with our clients. So as a leader, that wears down on your mental energy, on your emotional energy to deal with your team on an ongoing basis and to try and motivate them, inspire them, and lift them up this high performance curve to become a high performing team. Now, what can you do as a leader if the relationships in your team are low, and if your team aren't communicating, if they aren't working well together? Well, here's three things that I prepared earlier. Now, as a leader, there are many things you can do. I'm going to give you, in our experience, what those top three are. The first one is set the standard in your team and in your business. What I mean by that is that in that relationships area, how your team work together, I want you as a leader to model that behavior. So if you want your team to have robust conversations, if you want your team to have courageous decision making, if you want them to be committed to the goals and the objectives of your business, demonstrate that behavior to them. Demonstrate how they do that as a team member. And as a leader, you will set the standard. Remember, as a leader, you drive culture. As a team member, your team changes the culture in your business. As a leader, you set the standard. You set the expectations of what you want from a behavior perspective, from a communication perspective, from an interpersonal relationship perspective. You set the standards. You set the benchmark. Your team is a direct reflection of you as its leader. The better the standard you set, the better the performance will be in your team. Set the right standards. Now, how do you do that? Be clear on what they are for a start. And I always say, if you're not clear on the standards that you want from your team, how will they ever deliver them? Once you're clear on those standards, share them with your team too. Be upfront with your team and let them know what it is that you expect of them. We even get to the point with some teams where we do what we call a team charter. Now, what a team charter does is lays out the behaviour standards, and it lays out the expectations and the commitments and the accountability that team members will take on for how they work together. Amazing document. So much power in that. If you decide to go down that path, make sure as a leader you're involved in that so that you can understand where your team sits in relation to what they expect of each other and what they're willing to be held accountable to. That's number one. Set the standards as a leader for what you expect and what you will accept as a team leader. The next one is recognition. Now, never miss an opportunity as a leader to recognize outstanding behavior. Whether that behavior is output driven, whether it's something tangible, whether it's a sale made, or in a payroll team, whether the output is all the pay's done this week. Also, never miss the opportunity to recognize from a relationship perspective when teams and team members meet your behavior standards, really, which is what they are. The level of communication, the level of working together that you're looking for. When they meet that, don't miss an opportunity as a leader to recognize it. And yes, there's going to be times when you need to give constructive feedback. What I hear from team members is that they only ever hear about the bad stuff. They don't hear about the good stuff. And if you can put yourself in our shoes as executive coaches and team builders, we do employee engagement surveys. We hear from employees. We've got case studies where, as employee engagement surveys done, the biggest ticket item that employees want to see that will improve their engagement is recognition. Maslow said it in his hierarchy of needs last century, and things haven't changed. People want to be recognized specifically, authentically, and very deliberately for the contribution they make to their business and to their team. Never miss an opportunity to recognize outstanding performance. Now, the third one that we see makes a massive difference in team engagement and how a team performs is the priority that the leader gives to the people in his team. Let me say that again. The priority that the leader gives to the people in his or her team. What I mean by that is that people are your priority as a leader. Yes, I'm looking directly at you as a leader. People are your priority. Your team members are your priority. Not the outputs, not the sales, the people. If you get the team member interactions, relationships right, and your relationship with your team members right, watch the output. So the output will take care of itself. The only way that you as a leader will really nail the people element in your team and in your business is to prioritize those people. Make them your number one priority. How do you do that? Systematize it. Make time to spend time with your team as a team. Make time to spend with the individuals in your team. Don't blow them off. Don't push them away when they come for their weekly individual meeting. Schedule it into your calendar. Demonstrate to your team that your team members are your absolute priority. Until you make them your priority, these other things won't happen. You won't pick a good time to recognize their great performance. You won't understand from them what standards of behavior are occurring in your team. Part of that prioritization is, as a leader, ask your team members how they want to be engaged more in your team. Then listen, be present. Be present. Care. We do a lot of work around care factor leadership, and we've got case studies around this country where we've worked with teams that have implemented these things and other things and turned their teams around. Gone from low performing teams to high performing teams. In 8 weeks, in 12 weeks, in 16 weeks, in as little as 8 weeks, these things can turn your team around. And we know that because we've seen it. We've been a part of those team leader and team journeys. Now, there is a link below. If you'd like more information, obligation free, I would love to talk to you and take you through this process in more detail and how the Guinea Group of companies make or help this process to be implemented in organizations and in teams. This is an obligation free consultation in 45 minutes, I will give you a guarantee that you will walk away with a team improvement strategy where you can take your team from being a drain on the resources in your business, if they are now, to being an absolute profit center. Whether you have got a sales team, whether you've got an accounting team, whether you've got a procurement team, whether you've got a leadership team, in 45 minutes, I will make a guarantee to you that in that time, you will walk away with a plan and no obligation. What have you got to lose? Click below, jump into my calendar, organize a time in my calendar. You'll see the times that are available in my calendar. The link's below. Jump in there. We'll get on the phone and I'll talk you through how to implement this as a leader and how to significantly increase the engagement of your team members, significantly improve their value to the business, which is what we all want as leaders. And of course, if you want to work with us further, we'll give you the opportunity to do that. And that's great if you do. And if not, that's fine. You'll walk away with your plan on how you can make your team a high performing team. And of course, being the Guinea Group, one of our mottos is that we give more than we ever get. So just for clicking below, we're going to give you some free gifts. We're going to give you free ebooks. We're going to give you best-selling books that you can digest and you can then implement some of the lessons in those books. One of those books is about entrepreneurs around the world who do grow amazing teams and amazing businesses, which I know you'll get a lot of value from. So click below, jump into our calendar, and you'll talk with me for 45 minutes in an obligation-free environment. And I look forward, I really do. The experience that we've got doing this with team leaders and teams around Australia is invaluable. And I can't wait to share with you how to take your team into the high-performing team space. I look forward to hearing from you.